Savage! I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get! Whatever I want, I have to get!
That savage mindset hasn't gone anywhere. Even behind bars, Diddy's still trying to control the game. Now, word is he's crossed the line. Reports claim he sent death threats to the federal judge overseeing his case, all because the judge brought in Johnny Depp's legal team to handle the prosecution. And honestly, it's not hard to believe. There have already been rumors about Diddy threatening witnesses too. There's a lot happening behind the scenes, so let's get into it. Alleged threats and the role of Depp's legal team. As the high-stakes trial of Sean Diddy Combs continues to have everybody and their mama glued to their screens, a new and disturbing angle has entered the chat that's making this already explosive case even more complicated. Word on the street and in the courts is that Diddy allegedly made threats, both inside and outside the courtroom, raising serious questions about witness intimidation, obstruction of justice, and just how far the music mogul might go to keep his situation from going completely left. These allegations about threatening behavior aren't just one-offs, but seem to be part of a bigger pattern that prosecutors claim has been Diddy's MO when dealing with anyone who might challenge or expose him. The federal indictment itself alleges that Combs used threats of violence, often backed by straps, physical violence, including choking, hitting, or dangling victims over balconies, and verbal intimidation to force women into participating in freak-offs and to keep them quiet afterward. One of the most concerning aspects of these allegations involves Diddy's behavior while locked up at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn. Prosecutors have accused him of trying to obstruct justice from behind bars, claiming he used other inmates' phone privileges for three-way calls to contact witnesses, plant stories in the media, and pay off inmates by loading up their commissary accounts. Notes allegedly seized from his cell, including a 19-page document and a things-to-do list, reportedly laid out plans to pay off witnesses, dig up dirt on accusers, and manipulate social media narratives, though Diddy's defense team is calling cap on all of this. These allegations of witness tampering have been the main reason judges keep denying Diddy bail, calling him a serious flight risk and a danger to the community. The prosecution's concerns about Diddy potentially influencing witnesses were significant enough that they were cited by Judge Subramanian in his November 2024 decision to deny bail, continuing the custody arrangement that had been set up by Judge Andrew L. Carter Jr., who had initially handled the case before it was handed off to Subramanian in October 2024. Beyond the courtroom and the jail, a longer history of alleged threats has come to light through various lawsuits and public statements. One of the most well-documented instances involves Danielle Smith, former editor-in-chief of Vibe magazine, who alleged that in 1997, Diddy threatened her life over a disagreement about cover photos for an issue featuring him. Smith claimed that after she refused Diddy's demand to see the photos before publication, which went against Vibe's rules, he called her and allegedly said he would see her dead in the trunk of a car if she didn't play ball. According to Smith, Diddy then sent two of his people to Vibe's offices, where they went through cubicles and offices looking for the photos, forcing Smith to be moved between offices for her safety before eventually bouncing from the building. Her attorney stepped in, threatening legal action unless Diddy sent a faxed apology, which she reportedly got within 2 hours. Smith first shared this story in a 2024 essay for the New York Times and later in the investigation discovery docuseries The Fall of Diddy, which dropped in January 2025. Diddy's legal team has straight up denied these allegations, calling Smith's claims pure fiction and criticizing the docuseries for showing a one-sided and prejudicial narrative without giving Diddy enough time to respond. They argued that the accusations were part of a media circus and didn't have proper context. Another wild accusation comes from Ashley Parham, who filed a lawsuit in October 2024 alleging that Diddy and his boys gang raped her in 2018 as payback for suggesting on a FaceTime call that he was involved in Tupac Shakur's 1996 murder. Parham claimed that Diddy held a knife to her face and threatened to give her a Glasgow smile, a facial disfigurement, for her remarks about Tupac, and that he and his associates, including his bodyguard and chief of staff, threatened her with more violence to make sure she kept her mouth shut. Similarly, Dawn Richard, a former member of Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money, filed a 55-page lawsuit in September 2024 alleging that Diddy threatened her life when she tried to step in during his abuse of Cassie Ventura. Richard claimed she witnessed Diddy choking, strangling, and assaulting Ventura, and that when she tried to help, Diddy told her he could make people disappear and end people, using his power to put the fear in her. These allegations of threatening behavior extend to Diddy's business relationships too. Kirk Burrows, the co-founder of Bad Boy Entertainment, sued Diddy, alleging that in 1996, Diddy rolled up on his office, threatening violent repercussions unless he signed over his 25% stake in the company. Burrows claimed that Diddy later blackballed him in the industry after forcing him out of the business. Even more disturbing are the allegations involving minors. A John Doe plaintiff alleged in a 2024 lawsuit that at age 10 in 2005, Diddy sexually assaulted him during an audition and threatened him to keep him quiet. According to the lawsuit, Diddy asked the child how badly he wanted to be a star before assaulting him and threatening him against telling anyone, which allegedly had the boy's parents too terrified to report the incident because of Diddy's influence. Against this troubled backdrop of alleged threats and intimidation, an unexpected connection to another high-profile celebrity case has emerged, that of Johnny Depp and his legal team. Ben Chew, one of the attorneys who held it down for Depp in his defamation trial against Amber Heard, has become a key commentator on the Diddy case, offering insights and analysis based on his experience with high-profile celebrity trials.
Well, it's taking longer than I would have expected. In the case of Depp v. Heard, everybody wanted to serve on the jury. So in many cases, as you know, jurors are trying to make excuses as to why they can't sit through a long trial. And 8 weeks, as you say, is a very long trial. But in these celebrity trials, I think people are more inclined to want to serve as a juror. So I'm a little surprised it's taken as long as it has.
Chew appeared on Piers Morgan Uncensored in October 2024 to break down Diddy's legal strategy, giving his professional take on the challenges Diddy is facing. Chew didn't sugarcoat it about the 2016 hotel video showing Diddy putting hands on Cassie Ventura, describing it as devastating to the defense and suggesting that Diddy would need to take the stand in his own defense to address it directly.
I think the problem is going to come in, with the Cassandra Ventura's tape. I mean, whether you've seen that before, you're certainly going to see that during the trial. And I think that's highly problematic, obviously, for Diddy, whether they've seen it before or not.
Yeah, because the prosecution is saying she was not only running away from Combs, she was running away from a freak-off, that there was a sex worker in that hotel room, and that goes to the charge of sex trafficking. And also racketeering, because sex trafficking is a part of that as well.
In his analysis, Chew stressed that Diddy would need to show real remorse for what was caught on video, framing it as an aberration rather than part of a pattern of sex trafficking or other criminal behavior. He criticized Diddy's previous apology video as not being genuine enough and suggested that Diddy would need to look the jury in the eye and show some real emotion to have any chance of winning them over.
Knowing that that's coming in, I think he has to take the stand and explain that. I mean, going back to the issue of celebrity client, you have a tension between image and what's best for the public image in the court of public opinion and what's better for the client. His apology was probably done to help his image, but I think it will hurt him in the criminal trial. And I think that's another factor which requires him to testify, because you have not only the video, but you have the prior apology coming into evidence, and that wasn't a very good apology.
No way.
Chew's involvement, even though it's just commentary rather than actual representation, has still added another layer to how the public is seeing the case. His expertise, coming from his successful handling of Depp's highly publicized trial, has helped shape the narrative around Diddy's legal strategy and the uphill battle his defense team is facing in countering the prosecution's case. Another attorney from Depp's legal team, Wayne Dennison, has also weighed in on the Diddy case, advising celebrities connected to Diddy to keep their mouths shut to avoid getting dragged into the drama or attracting more lawsuits. His advice shows a strategic approach to managing public perception, similar to tactics that worked well in Depp's trial. The connections between the Depp and Diddy cases go beyond just the lawyers to broader questions of how high-profile defendants navigate both criminal proceedings and public opinion. Depp's team, including Chew, successfully used social media and public relations to shape the narrative around his case, a strategy that Diddy's team might be trying to copy, even though the contexts and the nature of the allegations are very different. However, as Chew himself has pointed out, there are major differences between the two cases. Depp's was a civil defamation suit with money and reputation on the line, while Diddy is facing federal criminal charges that could put him behind bars for life. The burden of proof is higher in criminal cases, beyond a reasonable doubt versus preponderance of evidence in civil cases, and the penalties are way more serious. Plus, while Depp had tons of public support and no direct video evidence evidence of abuse. Diddy is dealing with that damning 2016 surveillance footage that Chu described as particularly hard to overcome. This contrast highlights the uphill battle Diddy is facing, both in court and in the court of public opinion. As the trial moves forward, the shadow of alleged threats and intimidation continues to hang over the proceedings. The prosecution's story portrays Diddy as someone used to using threats and coercion to stay in control and silence those who might expose what he's been doing. His defense team, on the flip side, paints these allegations as exaggerated, financially motivated, or straight up fabricated. The truth, as always in complex cases like this, probably falls somewhere in between, and it will be up to Judge Subramanian and the jury to sort through the evidence and testimony to figure out what's real. With all eyes now locked on the courtroom, let's unravel the next twist in this escalating saga: the crazy trial and the judge's major power move. It's here, in the heart of the chaos, that the courtroom has become a stage for one of the most unpredictable legal showdowns in recent memory. And right in the middle of all the chaos, the judge steps in and switches things up, changing the vibe of the whole courtroom and catching everyone off guard. The case is so wild, with allegations of power trips, sexual misconduct, and straight-up criminal enterprise, that the whole entertainment game is shook to the core. These accusations ain't just your average tea, they're scalding hot. Combs is facing charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. This ain't some petty stuff that'll get you community service. We're talking serious federal beef with the possibility of being sent upstate for life. The indictment, a super detailed 14-page document, paints a disturbing picture of a man who allegedly used his massive business empire to sexually abuse and exploit women, plus commit other acts of violence and obstruction of justice.
Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them.
At the heart of what the feds are saying is the claim that Diddy was running what they call freak-offs, wild, drug-fueled sexual performances that were allegedly recorded, sometimes without consent, and later used as blackmail to keep everyone involved quiet. The prosecution says these events were so physically draining that participants needed IV drips afterward just to recover. That's next-level wild.
The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair.
The feds went all in on this investigation. On March 25, 2024, Homeland Security investigations ran up on Combs' cribs in Los Angeles and Miami, seizing guns, drugs, and reportedly over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant, items prosecutors say were props for these freak-offs. These raids weren't just for show. They marked a serious escalation in what was already becoming a PR nightmare for the music mogul. But the charges themselves might not even be the craziest part of this whole situation. What's even more wild is the flood of civil lawsuits that followed. Since November 2023, when Combs' ex Cassandra Cassie Ventura filed her first lawsuit alleging a decade of abuse, more than 60 civil suits have been filed against Combs, with attorney Tony Busby repping over 120 accusers. The allegations in these lawsuits go back decades and include claims from people who say they were minors when the incidents went down. The judge tasked with keeping this whole circus under control is U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian, a relatively new federal judge who's only been on the bench since 2023 when President Biden put him there. Judge Subramanian has already made some major power moves in the case, most notably his April 2025 decision to allow the prosecution to show the jury a particularly damning piece of evidence, a 2016 surveillance video showing Combs putting hands on Cassie Ventura in a Los Angeles hotel. This ruling was a serious L for Combs' defense squad, who had been arguing that the video was wholly inaccurate or doctored, claims that CNN, which first dropped the footage, has firmly denied. The video, which shows Combs attacking Ventura, dragging her, and throwing objects at her, has become a cornerstone of the prosecution's case, showing what they claim is part of a pattern of violent and controlling behavior. Judge Subramanian's background is pretty stacked for handling a high-profile case like this. Before rocking the black robe, Subramanian was a partner at Sussman Godfrey LLC, a fancy Manhattan law firm, where he reportedly recovered over $1 billion for clients, including public and private entities victimized by fraud. Even though he's relatively new to the judge game, Subramanian has already shown his his style in the Combs case. He's meticulous about details, careful about managing the vibe in his courtroom, and committed to keeping things fair. His demeanor in court has been described as casual but still commanding respect, with some reports saying he sometimes uses humor to lighten the mood during the tense jury selection process. This approach has caught people's attention, with some posts on X noting that he sometimes pulled up to court dressed so casual that he was mistaken for a student. The jury selection process, which kicked off on May 5th, 2025, has been mad thorough, with Subramanian questioning nearly 100 potential jurors about what they know about the case, their experiences with sexual assault, and whether they can keep it a buck despite the case's high profile and that viral 2016 video. He pushed back the final phase of jury selection to May 12, 2025, worried that jurors might bounce over the weekend, a decision that shows he's playing it safe to make sure the jury stays solid and impartial. On May 7, 2025, Judge Subramanian showed he doesn't play when it comes to unprofessional behavior when he checked Mark Garagos, a lawyer close to Combs' defense team, for calling the all-female prosecution team a six-pack of white women on a podcast. In a private meeting, he called the comments outrageous and inappropriate for an officer of the court, warning Garagos that he'd be watching if there were any more comments like that. As the trial keeps moving forward, Judge Subramanian's every decision is under the microscope, not just from the legal teams, but from a public that's hungry for justice and accountability. The weight on his shoulders is heavy, making sure the trial is fair while managing a case that has the whole country watching and raising serious questions about power, abuse, and accountability in the entertainment industry. And just when it seemed like the courtroom couldn't get any more intense, a surprising twist emerged, one that dragged Johnny Depp's high-profile legal team into the spotlight, adding a whole new layer of controversy to an already explosive trial. In the coming weeks, as witnesses take the stand and evidence is presented, the full extent of these allegations will be put under the microscope of the judicial process. The trial keeps it moving. Tension builds as death threat rumors go viral. As the trial of Sean Diddy Combs hits its most crucial phase, the vibe in and around the courtroom has gotten increasingly tense, with speculation running wild. Recent weeks have seen a disturbing new element added to the already volatile mix. Rumors that Diddy allegedly made death threats against Judge Arun Subramanian, specifically related to the involvement of Johnny Depp's legal team in the proceedings. While these claims have been blowing up on social media, a closer look at the actual facts reveals a more complex situation than what's being shared online. When you break down these claims critically, several major misunderstandings become clear. First off, there's zero evidence that Johnny Depp's lawyers, like Ben Chew or Camille Vasquez, have been appointed to Diddy's case in any role, either as jurors or as counsel. The defense team is actually headed by attorneys including Mark Agnifilo, Tenny Garagos, Alexandra Shapiro, and Brian Steele, none of whom were part of Depp's squad during his defamation trial against Amber Heard. Second, the claim that Diddy threatened Judge Subramanian appears to be based on a much more regular courtroom interaction. According to a Yahoo News report, Diddy apologized to the judge for being a little nervous after asking for a bathroom break during jury selection. Hardly the aggressive snapping or raging described in those sensationalized social media posts. The confusion might partially come from the involvement of Dawn Hughes, a forensic psychologist who testified for Amber Heard in the 2022 Depp Heard defamation trial and is reportedly a potential prosecution witness in Diddy's trial. Hughes' connection to both cases might have led to misunderstandings about Depp's legal team being involved. Additionally, the heated exchanges between legal teams and their various motions have added to the courtroom drama, potentially contributing to perceptions of hostility. On May 6, 2025, Diddy's legal team filed a motion asking Judge Arun Subramanian to issue a preservation order to make sure federal prosecutors keep copies of the Diddy Speaks newsletter, a publication allegedly linked to Diddy that his defense argued might contain exculpatory evidence, information that could support his innocence or weaken the prosecution's case. The government clapped back, saying they'd already given the defense all the relevant discovery materials and argued that the request was just trying to delay the trial. While this kind of legal back and forth is standard in high-stakes cases, it highlights the tension between the defense and prosecution, with Judge Subramanian caught in the middle of these disputes. Despite the lack of receipts for the death threat rumors, there's plenty of evidence suggesting that threats and intimidation have been a big part of Diddy's professional and personal relationships over the years. Multiple lawsuits and the federal indictment itself allege that Diddy used threats to silence critics, control victims, and maintain his public image. Prosecution documents claim that Diddy used bribery, threats, and violence to cover up alleged abuse, including reportedly paying $50,000 to suppress the 2016 Ventura assault video. These allegations are part of a broader pattern of alleged coercive behavior that spans decades and includes claims from former employees, romantic partners, and business associates. The Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn, where Diddy has been held since his arrest in September 2024, is its own kind of nightmare with challenges and concerns related to violence and threats. MDC Brooklyn has a well-documented history of violence, with multiple incidents reported in recent years, including the June 2024 stabbing death of Uriel White and the death of Edwin Cordero following a brawl in July 2024. The facility has been called hell on earth and an ongoing tragedy by lawyers, judges, and media, with chronic understaffing at 76% capacity and over 700 backlogged maintenance requests, making violence and neglect worse. Congressman Dan Goldman has called for federal oversight to address these issues, which Diddy's legal team has repeatedly brought up in unsuccessful bail requests. Diddy's attorney, Mark Agnifilo, has expressed fears for his client's safety, citing the jail's violence and Diddy's high-profile status. Early reports suggested Diddy feared being poisoned and initially avoided jail food, though he's since adjusted. His protective custody status, while providing extra security, has made his trial preparation more difficult. As a high-profile inmate, Diddy faces unique risks within the prison system. Former Warden Cameron Lindsay has noted that assaulting him could be seen as a badge of honor for some inmates, highlighting the precarious position he's in at the detention facility. However, reports also suggest that Diddy gets preferential treatment, including extra showers or time out of his cell, potentially because of his wealth or fame. While no confirmed reports directly connect Diddy to violent incidents within MDC, his safety remains a significant concern for his legal team. This context of institutional violence and Diddy's vulnerable position as a high-profile detainee adds another layer of complexity to the case and the rumors surrounding it. The trial itself is expected to continue for a total of 8 weeks, with opening statements having begun on May 12, 2025, after jury selection wrapped up. A jury of 12, 6 men, 6 women, and 6 alternates has been seated, and the prosecution has started presenting its case, including testimony from witnesses and the introduction of key evidence such as the 2016 surveillance video. As the trial progresses, several key witnesses are expected to testify, including Cassandra Cassie Ventura, whose 2023 lawsuit and the subsequently released 2016 surveillance video sparked the wave of allegations against Diddy. Other anticipated witnesses include accusers identified in court documents as Victim 2, Victim 3, and Victim 4, though the prosecution has reportedly had trouble locating some witnesses, particularly Victim 3. The stakes of this trial go way beyond just Diddy himself. As Tracy Walder suggested in a statement to the media, there's no charges against them yet, and I think that is for a reason, because they are cutting deals with them to testify against Diddy. This implies that prosecutors might be building a case that could potentially implicate others in Diddy's circle, widening the scope of accountability within the music industry. The broader implications of this case are major, touching on questions of power, accountability, and how women are treated in the entertainment industry. As one source noted, I imagine that there are many people who will take whatever it is that they know with them wherever they go because they believe that was the price of participation. This suggests a culture of silence and complicity that went far beyond just Diddy himself. The rumors of death threats against Judge Subramanian, while unverified, reflect the intense public interest and speculation surrounding this case. They also highlight how hard it is to separate facts from fiction in an era of social media and instant information sharing, where sensationalized claims can quickly gain traction, regardless of whether they're based in reality. For Judge Subramanian, navigating these waters requires not just legal skills, but also a steady hand in managing the courtroom environment. His decisions so far, from allowing the 2016 video as evidence to checking Mark Geragos for inappropriate comments, suggest a commitment to maintaining order and ensuring a fair trial despite the intense media spotlight and public scrutiny. As the trial continues, the focus will increasingly shift to the evidence and testimony presented in court, moving beyond rumors and speculation to the real legal questions at hand. The prosecution will try to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Diddy engaged in a pattern of criminal behavior, while the defense will attempt to challenge the credibility of accusers and offer alternative explanations for the evidence presented. For Diddy himself, the stakes couldn't be higher. If convicted on all counts, he faces the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. His legal team's strategy, as outlined by lead attorney Mark Agnifilo, involves acknowledging certain behaviors while disputing the broader criminal enterprise allegations. Agnifilo has stated that Diddy's history of domestic violence and deviant sexual behavior doesn't constitute sex trafficking or racketeering. racketeering, framing the case as an intrusion into his private life. In the court of public opinion, Diddy's reputation has already taken a massive L. The release of the 2016 surveillance video showing him assaulting Ventura marked a turning point, making it hard to dismiss the accusations as just opportunistic or financially motivated. The video provided visual proof of behavior that matched the pattern described by multiple accusers, lending credibility to their claims.
Do you believe that she died of pneumonia?
Absolutely not.
Why? What evidence do you have?
She was in the best of health. We just saw each other prior to her passing.
Al B. Sure, the ex-partner of Diddy's late girlfriend Kim Porter, has added another troubling dimension to the case with his recent public statements. In a 2025 appearance on Fox 5 New York, he claimed to know the truth about Diddy and suggested that Diddy threatened Porter. He also questioned the official cause of Porter's death, pneumonia, stating, "She was in the best of health. We just saw each other prior to her passing." While these claims lack specific evidence and haven't been verified in court, they contribute to the atmosphere of speculation and concern surrounding Diddy. As the Diddy trial continues to unfold, the rumors of death threats against Judge Subramanian serve as a reminder of the volatile mix of celebrity, serious criminal allegations, and public fascination that characterizes this case. While these specific claims appear to be without substance, they exist within a broader context of documented allegations of threatening behavior by Diddy toward various individuals over the years. The coming weeks will be crucial in determining Diddy's fate as the prosecution presents its case and the defense tries to counter the narrative of a criminal enterprise built on exploitation and abuse. Judge Subramanian's role will be to ensure that the proceedings follow legal standards and that the jury is able to evaluate the evidence without being influenced by the media storm surrounding the case. Whatever the outcome, the Diddy trial represents a significant moment in the ongoing societal reckoning with powerful figures accused of abusing their positions to exploit others. This is Derek Lee Cardello Smith, an inmate of Ernest C. Brooks Correctional Facility in Michigan, who brought a $100 million suit against Diddy. He made some claims about his interactions with Puff Daddy from the 90s, but while the court began to investigate it, they found some holes in Derek's story that reveals even more about Diddy's disgusting behavior, and it may have something to do with the judge in Diddy's current RICO indictment refusing to grant him bail. So what are these holes in Derek's story that scared everyone? The shocking claims of Diddy's accuser. As I begin to explain this complex web of stories, let me start with the alleged incident at the Adrian Hotel in 1997, which forms the crux of Derek Lee Cardello Smith's accusations against Sean Diddy Combs. According to Cardello Smith, he encountered Combs at a party following a chance meeting at a Detroit restaurant where Cardello Smith was employed. The night allegedly took a dark turn when Combs offered him a drink, causing Cardello Smith to lose consciousness. He claims to have awakened later, bleeding and in pain. However, discrepancies in Cardello Smith's account have raised eyebrows. Notably, there was no Holiday Inn in Adrian at the time of the alleged incident, contrary to Cardello Smith's initial claim. The timeline and location details have shifted in subsequent tellings, casting doubt on the veracity of the accusations. Perhaps the most extraordinary aspect of Cardello Smith's claims is the purported agreement between himself, Combs, and various law enforcement officials. This alleged document stipulates that Cardello Smith is entitled to 49% of Combs' business interests if the music mogul commits further acts of sexual violence. The existence and validity of such an agreement have been met with skepticism from legal experts. The very existence of such an agreement, if proven true, would have far-reaching implications for the music industry and celebrity culture. It suggests a level of premeditation and awareness of wrongdoing that goes beyond a single incident, potentially implicating not just Combs but also law enforcement officials in a conspiracy of silence. This aspect of the case has sent shockwaves through both the entertainment and legal communities. The document, presented as evidence by Cardello Smith, contains signatures that have been called into question. Handwriting experts and those familiar with the alleged signatories have expressed doubt about the authenticity of these signatures, further complicating the case. Looking a bit back on the accuser, Derek Lee Cardello Smith's background adds a layer of complexity to his accusations against Combs. Currently serving up to 75 years for 2008 and 2019 first-degree criminal sexual conduct and kidnapping charges at Ernest C. Brooks Correctional Facility in Muskegon Heights, Michigan. Moreover, Cardello Smith's criminal record spans decades, with convictions dating back to the late 1990s. Despite his troubled past, Cardello Smith's emergence as Combs' accuser has began a complex conversation about redemption, credibility, and the nature of victimhood. Some advocates argue that his criminal history doesn't negate the possibility of his own victimization, pointing out that individuals with troubled pasts are often more vulnerable to exploitation. This perspective challenges society's tendency to categorize people as either wholly good or bad. However, Smith's extensive criminal history has inevitably colored public perception of his claims. Critics argue that his pattern pattern of criminal behavior, particularly his convictions for sexual offenses, undermines his credibility in accusing others of similar crimes. The timing and nature of Cardelo Smith's allegations have also sparked debate about his motivations. Diddy's legal representative, Fink, said Cardelo Smith is a serial litigant, he said, who has been found by the federal court to have filed at least 4 frivolous lawsuits. That's before this one. Some speculate that the lawsuit is a bid for attention or financial gain, given the high-profile nature of the target and the substantial sums sought in damages. Others argue that the #MeToo movement has emboldened victims to come forward, regardless of their personal history. The case has become a lightning rod for discussions about the intersection of criminal justice, celebrity culture, and the #MeToo movement. Supporters of Cardelo Smith argue that his willingness to come forward, despite the scrutiny his past would inevitably invite, speaks to the urgency and validity of his claims. Critics, however, see it as an opportunistic attempt to capitalize on the current climate of heightened awareness around sexual misconduct. Psychologists and victim advocates caution against dismissing claims solely based on the accuser's background. They note that trauma can manifest in complex ways, and that individuals with troubled pasts can still be victims of abuse. However, the extraordinary nature of Cardelo Smith's claims and the lack of corroborating evidence have led many to approach his accusations with skepticism. The $100 million bombshell. The legal world was stunned when Lenawee County Circuit Judge Anna Marie Anzalone granted Cardelo Smith a default judgment of $100 million against Sean Diddy Combs.
So I'm going to grant your motion for a preliminary injunction temporary restraining order and order that the defendant and their agents are hereby enjoined temporarily for a period of 90 days from the sale, transfer, or exchange, trade, or transaction of title or deed to the property listed as the address and placed on the market by defendants for the amount of $70 million.
And the judge did not stop there, because all Diddy's properties in question were requested to stop their daily business activities immediately.
This property and estate belonging to or connected to defendant Sean Combs shall cease and desist any and all trades, transactions, or otherwise stop the process of any further actions on this property being continued, and this shall have an immediate effect.
It was agreed that this astronomical sum, to be paid in monthly $10 million installments starting October 1st, was awarded after Combs failed to appear in court or respond to the lawsuit. Some people say that such large default judgments could encourage people to file unfounded claims against famous people, while others say that they are important to keep people from ignoring the law. The case has become a spark in ongoing discussions about tort reform and how to protect victims' rights, while also stopping people from taking advantage of the law. The proceedings leading to this judgment were unconventional, to say the least. Cardelo Smith, representing himself from prison, filed the lawsuit and successfully argued for the full amount he requested. The absence of any defense from Combs or his legal team paved the way for this unprecedented decision. Combs' failure to appear in court or respond to the lawsuit has been a point of contention. His legal team vehemently denies ever receiving notice of the lawsuit, claiming that the first they heard of it was through media reports of the judgment. Diddy's attorney Agnifilo said, "This man is a convicted felon and sexual predator who has been sentenced on 14 counts of sexual assault and kidnapping over the last 26 years, the attorney stated. His resume now includes committing a fraud on the court from prison, as Mr. Combs has never heard of him, let alone been served with any lawsuit. Mr. Combs looks forward to having this judgment swiftly dismissed. This absence proved costly, as it left Cardelo Smith's claims unchallenged in the courtroom. However, in response to the judgment, Combs' attorneys swiftly filed emergency motions to dismiss. They argue that the entire case is based on obvious fabrications, and that proper legal procedures were not followed in notifying their client. The motions paint Cardelo Smith as a serial litigant with a history of filing frivolous lawsuits. Diddy's attorney's motion said, "This is a frivolous lawsuit against a prominent businessman based on obvious fabrications filed by a convicted rapist and serial litigant with an overactive imagination and a thirst for fame." Legal experts have weighed in on the unusual aspects of this judgment and its potential for dismissal. Many point out that default judgments of this magnitude are extremely rare, especially in cases involving high-profile defendants. The circumstances surrounding the service of the lawsuit and Combs' alleged lack of awareness have been highlighted as potential grounds for overturning the decision. The case has become a subject of intense debate in legal circles, with some arguing that it exposes flaws in the current system of default judgments. Legal scholars are using this case as a teachable moment, exploring the balance between protecting defendants' rights and ensuring that plaintiffs have recourse when defendants fail to engage with the legal process. The outcome of Combs' challenge to the judgment could potentially potentially set precedents for how similar cases are handled in the future. The validity of the judgment hinges on several factors, including whether Combs was properly served and whether the court had jurisdiction to make such a ruling. Experts suggest that if Combs can prove he was not properly notified of the lawsuit, or if there were procedural errors in the case, he stands a good chance of having the judgment dismissed or significantly reduced. The Combs-Cardello-Smith case, while unique in its own right, shares similarities with other high-profile celebrity cases involving multiple accusers. Unlike many celebrity lawsuits where accusers are directly connected to the star's inner circle, Cardello-Smith's alleged encounter with Combs was brief and was decades ago. However, this case has become intertwined with a series of other lawsuits and accusations against Combs, creating a complex legal landscape. One notable parallel is the case against R&B singer Aaron Hall, who was named as a co-defendant in a complaint filed against Combs in November 2023. The plaintiff, Liza Gardner, accused both Combs and Hall of sexual assault in 1990 when she was 16 years old. This case, like Cardello-Smith's, involves allegations from decades past, highlighting the long-term impact of alleged misconduct in the entertainment industry. The involvement of multiple high-profile figures sets this case apart from typical inmate accusations. For instance, the lawsuit filed by Combs' former girlfriend Cassandra Ventura mentions rapper Kid Cudi, alleging that Combs threatened to blow up Cudi's car. Other celebrities like Prince Harry, Nicki Minaj, and Usher have been mentioned in passing in various legal filings, though not accused of wrongdoing themselves. The scale of the allegations against Combs is reminiscent of other major celebrity cases, such as those involving Diddy himself, Bill Cosby, and Harvey Weinstein. Like these cases, the accusations against Combs span decades and involve multiple alleged victims. The federal indictment against Combs, which says he ran a criminal business called the Combs Enterprise that involves sex trafficking, forced labor, and other serious crimes, makes this case more complicated than most. Diddy's legal nightmare just starts. Sean Diddy Combs' legal troubles have multiplied in recent months, with a series of lawsuits painting a troubling picture of alleged misconduct spanning decades. The floodgates opened in November 2023 when his ex-girlfriend, singer Cassie Ventura, filed a lawsuit accusing him of physical abuse and sex trafficking. Although this case was swiftly settled, it paved the way for more accusers to come forward. An assault that Diddy seemingly took as usual and unproblematic, because a few months after attacking her, he went on Wendy Williams' show and said this, just like nothing happened.
I'm shocked that you and Cassie have gone this far, like the distance. What is it about her that, you know?
I mean, it's just like when a record comes on, the way she moves, like when I look at her, the way she smiles, the way I see her look at me sometimes when I wake up and she's already awake, you know?
So far, this cascade of lawsuits has had a ripple effect throughout the music industry, prompting soul-searching about long-standing practices and power dynamics. Many artists and industry insiders have begun speaking out about their own experiences, leading to calls for systemic change in how the business operates. The Ventura case has become a catalyst for a broader movement to address issues of abuse and exploitation in entertainment. In the wake of Ventura's lawsuit, several other individuals have filed legal actions against Combs. These include producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones Jr., who accused Combs of sexual assault and running a sex trafficking venture, and singer Dawn Richard, who alleged sexual assault, battery, and copyright infringement. Each lawsuit has added new dimensions to the allegations against Combs, suggesting a pattern of behavior that spans his entire career in the music industry. The allegations against Combs range from sexual assault and abuse to financial exploitation and drug-related offenses. Accusers have described a culture of fear and manipulation, with Combs allegedly using his power and influence in the music industry to silence victims and witnesses. Some lawsuits claim that Combs used drugs and alcohol to incapacitate victims, while others allege that he used threats of violence to maintain control. The allegations against Sean Diddy Combs took an unexpected turn with the lawsuit filed by music producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones Jr. Jones's lawsuit not only accuses Combs of sexual assault, but also implicates other high-profile individuals in a web of alleged misconduct. The producer claims that Combs forced him to procure sex workers and pressured him into sexual acts with them, painting a disturbing picture of exploitation within the music industry. Perhaps the most startling allegation in Jones's lawsuit involves actor Cuba Gooding Jr. According to the legal filings, Gooding allegedly groped Jones while aboard Combs' yacht in the Virgin Islands in January 2023. The lawsuit provides vivid details of the alleged incident, claiming that Gooding began touching, groping, and fondling Mr. Jones's legs, his upper inner thighs near his groin, the small of of his back near his buttocks and his shoulders. To substantiate these claims, Jones's legal team included photographic evidence purportedly showing Gooding with his arm around Jones on the yacht, as well as images of Combs and Gooding in conversation during the trip. The sheer volume and consistency of the allegations have forced a reckoning within the hip-hop community and beyond. Many of Combs' former collaborators and protégés have found themselves in the uncomfortable position of having to address their past associations with him. Look at what Cat Williams said about P. Diddy just 2 months ago.
It's God's side and the other side. And we don't care nothing about the other side. Period. Period. All of these big deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is. TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all.
And then he had to turn down a lot of P. Diddy's part offers. This has led to profound discussions about complicity, willful ignorance, and the responsibility of bystanders in environments where abuse may be occurring. One particularly disturbing aspect of the allegations involves what some lawsuits refer to as freak-off parties. These events, allegedly organized by Combs and his associates, are described as drug-fueled orgies where sexual assault and exploitation were commonplace. Here is Diddy at one of the parties admitting it himself.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for all those in London that don't know what happens to the white man when he comes to a P. Diddy party, this is what happens to the white man.
Diddy didn't stop there. He then kept on to show how what he did to the man.
It's so unfortunate. You gotta pull back though, so they can see. That's crazy. Matt, move out the way. You're still alive. Look at that. Look. What you? There's a drink on his head. And that's James from Simeon Mobile Disco. He is a actual DJs aren't supposed to pass out, but when they come to one of my parties, this is what happens to him. I put him to sleep. Next day, right? You put the drink on his head.
P. Diddy's bodyguard also had some revelations to put out. The lawsuits claim that these parties were part of a larger pattern of behavior that blurred the lines between Combs' professional and personal lives, creating an environment where abuse could flourish. But that was only a beginning because things got worse. The timeline of Diddy's legal issues over the past year. The past year has seen a rapid escalation of legal challenges for Combs. Following Cassie Ventura's lawsuit in November 2023, a series of civil suits were filed under New York's Adult Survivors Act, which provided a 1-year window for victims to file claims regardless of when the alleged abuse occurred. This led to a flurry of legal activity in late 2023 and early 2024. As each new development emerged, the ripple effect spread further, affecting not just Combs, but also his business partners, employees, and the numerous charities and initiatives he supported. The timeline illustrates the cascading nature of scandal in the digital age, where each new revelation amplifies and accelerates the fall from grace. As 2024 progressed, the legal pressure on Combs intensified. March saw federal raids on his properties, followed by more lawsuits and increasing media scrutiny. The timeline culminated in Combs' arrest in September 2024, marking a significant escalation from civil to criminal proceedings. On March 25, 2024, federal agents simultaneously raided Combs' properties in Los Angeles and Miami. These coordinated actions, part of a human trafficking investigation, sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. The raids were notable for their scale and the involvement of multiple federal agencies, suggesting a wide-ranging and serious investigation. The visual impact of federal agents swarming Combs' luxurious properties created a powerful juxtaposition that captivated the public imagination. This stark contrast between the glittering facade of celebrity success and the grim reality of a federal investigation served as a potent symbol of the case's broader implications. It challenged the public's perception of untouchable celebrity status and highlighted the reach of federal law enforcement. The significance of these raids cannot be overstated. It clearly marked a transition from civil lawsuits to potential criminal charges, indicating that law enforcement had gathered enough evidence to justify such a dramatic action. The raids also lent credibility to the allegations made in various lawsuits, as federal involvement suggested that authorities found the claims credible enough to warrant further investigation. During the raids, federal agents reportedly discovered a cache of firearms at both locations, raising questions about potential weapons charges. However, the most shocking findings were related to what agents termed freak-off supplies. These included large quantities of narcotics and over 1,000 bottles of lubricants, corroborating claims made in lawsuits about drug-fueled parties and sexual exploitation. The discovery of the freak-off supplies has had a particularly profound impact on public perception. These tangible items have transformed abstract allegations into concrete concrete evidence, making the accusations feel more real and immediate to many observers. The sheer quantity of items seized has led to speculation about the scale and duration of the alleged activities, further damaging Combs' reputation in the court of public opinion. The raids also yielded electronic devices and documents that could prove crucial to the ongoing investigation. Investigators are likely combing through this material for evidence of human trafficking, financial crimes, and other illegal activities. The sheer volume of material seized suggests that the investigation could be far-reaching, potentially implicating others in Combs' circle. The culmination of the mounting legal pressure came on September 16, 2024, when Sean Diddy Combs was arrested in Manhattan. The arrest was based on a sealed indictment filed by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, charging Combs with racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The sight of Combs in handcuffs, stripped of his usual trappings of wealth and influence, has become a powerful symbol of accountability. For many, particularly those who have followed the allegations closely, this moment represents a long-awaited reckoning. It has sparked discussions about privilege, justice, and the perceived untouchability of certain figures in the entertainment industry, challenging long-held assumptions about who can be held accountable for their actions. Combs' bail hearing was a tense affair, with prosecutors arguing that he posed a flight risk and a danger to potential witnesses. Despite his legal team's efforts to secure his release, the judge ruled that Combs would remain in custody pending trial. This decision marked a dramatic fall from grace for the music mogul, who now faces the prospect of fighting serious federal charges from behind bars. As the legal battles and investigations continue, the world waits with bated breath for the truth to be revealed. Will justice be served, or will P. Diddy manage to evade the consequences of his alleged actions? Well, time will tell. Thank you for joining us as we explored the recent developments surrounding Sean Diddy Combs. Stay tuned for more updates on this ongoing investigation by clicking on the next card on the screen. Until next time,